Here we are. My man, what's going on, Carl?
Hey, how are you, sir? Good
I
to
am
see you.
doing fine. I'm doing fine. Yeah, a man in a suit, you got to call a sir, unfortunately. Um, but I'm glad you could join me, man. You doing okay tonight? Nighttime for you.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you. Thank you for asking.
Okay. And where are my glasses? Oh, I got them on. All right. But we're joined with Carl Zha. He is host of Silk and Steel podcast focused on China and surrounding regions and their history, culture, and politics. You can follow Carl on Twitter at Carl Zha. You can follow his podcast on Twitter at Steel Silk, the letter N. You can subscribe to his podcast at patreon.com/silk and steel. Carl, I was going into this
Uh-oh,
interesting
just happened.
story that I thought was,
I need to turn it back on.
I think it's a no
Turn,
duh,
turn
but I
back on
wanted to get
VPN.
your take on it.
What just happened?
Where do China and Israel ties stand after closure of the consulate in Chengdu? Basically, what the story is pointing out is that Israel set up a spy network with a front company and was caught by China, and they closed the consulate in Chengdu as a result of this particular case. What's going on with this? Because usually the reason
Well,
why this caught my eye is because I don't typically hear stuff about Israel and China, even though obviously they're countries, they have to have some kind of inner workings between each other. I would imagine this is not necessarily a good look for the Israelis, even though it's kind of coarse for the Israelis.
I okay. I have to put a caveat on the story because the story right now only exists on Chinese social media. This has not been confirmed by any Chinese official channels. But then on the other hand, China never really would announce something like that because traditionally, if China busted some spy activities, it's not China that's go out to the world and say, "Oh, we busted a spy ring, we arrested so and so." It's really the other government that will complain. This happened with a case in Canada when they had the two Michaels. This happened with Australia when they're complaining one Australian journalist was detained in China on spy charges. But on this particular case, Israeli response is interesting because they try to spin it as, oh, this is all normal. This is all perfectly normal
For them,
activity.
it
There's
is.
nothing wrong. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the Israeli-China relationship. Everything is hunky dory. Don't read too much into it, right? The fact that they even have to come out with such a statement, might mean something. Now the China-Israel relationship is not really that complicated. Before 1990, back in the 1980s, China did not recognize Israel. China had no ties with Israel until early 90s. So after the signing of Oslo Accord between the Yasser Arafat and then the Israeli prime minister, the expectation was then that will start the Palestine-Israel peace process that will lead to creation of the two-state solution. Well, that didn't happen, but at that time it looks like that's what's about to happen. So when Palestinians started to negotiate with Israel, that's when China finally recognized state of Israel. I think it was in 1992. And after that, from the time of early 1990s to the early 2000s, there was a window where Israel functioned as kind of backdoor to for technological transfer from the West to China, because United States and its allies still maintain an arms embargo on China after as a result of 1989 Tiananmen Square protest. Um,
Right.
but Israel had no qualm of selling military technology to China. So, but we all know where Israel gets its military technology from. They get it from the United States.
Right.
And Israel is like, as long as you pay, we'll give it to you. So for the period of 1990s, early 2000s, a lot of the Western military technology found their way to China through Israel. China bought and paid for them, but of course that Washington, finally wise up to that, and they put a kibosh on it. Like around late 2000 and early 2010s, Washington's like, okay, all right, Israel, I normally don't tell you what to do. I really hate to tell you what to do, but I have to tell you, in this case, I'm going to put a kibosh on you. Don't do that. Don't do technological transfer to China because I'm still the one that's paying your bills.
Right.
You can't keep on giving the American technology away and sell them for shekels. And
Right.
then so
Right.
and so then
Sure.
that stopped. That pipeline got stopped around like late 2000, 2010s. So this is a kind of whole gamut of China-Israel relationship. And but in more recent years, because China has been very vocal on the support for the Palestinian issue, let's just say that the relationship between China and Israel has been strained, and this is why you get those ridiculous reports from CNN that says China is fanning the flame of anti-Semitism, and then you actually read the article. It's talking about China is allowing pro-Palestinian content to exist on Chinese
Right.
social media, which is equivalent of China fanning the flame of anti-Semitism. Right? It's
Yeah.
ridiculous, but obviously Israel didn't like that, and so this is here we are. Israel have, I think, had total of 5 consulates in China. The one that closed down is the consulate in Chengdu, which is responsible for like the southwestern part of China. Sichuan province, Chongqing, Guizhou, Yunnan, etc. And now, interestingly, there was another country also closed down its consulate in Chengdu. That was United States. This was because the tit for tat. Because United States first closed down the Chinese consulate in Houston, and in response, China closed down the U.S. embassy in Chengdu. This happened, I think, in the Trump's first term,
Oh.
and so that was a clear case of what like. So why did Israel close down that consulate? Well, they made an announcement end of last year to say they intend to close down one of the consulate, and now in August 5th, the Israeli consular official from Chengdu just put out a statement, said that the consulate is officially closed with no other explanation. Right? He did not provide any reasons. Um, and then you had coming out with the Israeli spin, say like everything is fine. Everything is fine with the Israeli-China relationship. This consulate closure is just a routine cost saving measure, right? Which it could be true. It could be because like there's just not many Israeli in southwestern China that to justify maintain a consulate. Could be true again, but it's a big move, and let's just say people are not convinced. That was the official reason is a reason, and especially given the current strained relationship ties between Israel and China.
I mean, this article is pretty specific. If let me ask you this: why is social media then pointing out that this seems to be as a result of an Israeli company that was trying to get more bandwidth than otherwise? Like, meaning, why does this article exist? If this is like because some of these things are just either true or false. Like, for example, where's my glasses? Oh, right here. Like, for example, they point out. It says, in broad terms, in 2022, the Israeli embassy in China acted as an intermediary between Tel Aviv's based data company, technology firm, and Chengdu under the pretext of a joint building data processing center. Meaning they're effectively making the argument that an Israeli company tried to use Mossad, quote, engineers in order to get more information and data on things that were taking place in this particular region of China. And I got to be honest with you, this doesn't blow my mind, right? Like Erdogan was throwing about MBS having a guy carved up with a bone saw in the embassy. Right? Like meaning things do happen in embassies where embassies are the front in order to run intelligent operations out of a particular country. So this would necessarily shock me. I guess that's the thing that I'm getting at. Do we have any information in regards to things that could either validate or invalidate these data points that are being put in the article?
Well, again, this is just somebody on the Chinese social media promoting the story. We
Oh,
don't have any other
cooperation.
confirmation whether that's true, because you have to understand why people promote certain stories in social media. Sometimes because it's clickbait. It's like it attracts a lot of attention. Like this would attract a lot of attention, and that's incentive enough for somebody to create such story. But then again, I tell you, China would if that did happen,
They would never air it.
China would never publicly announce it, because this is how China tried to save face for the other party, right? Like China just like they will say nothing, they will no official confirmations, but then there might be some leaks on the social media about some crazy story that happened, but it can never
Okay.
be confirmed or verified. There's like a plausible deniability of saying yes, Israel's story is totally true, totally checks out. There's really everything is hunky dory, nothing to see here. Move on.
Yeah, China's
But
not going to bring this up.
because China never, officially they never bring those type of things up. They try to, behind the China prefer to conduct their deals behind the closed door, not in the public forum, and
Fair
which
enough.
is a sharp contrast of how things are really done in say in the West, because in the West we have special interest group. They leak certain item to the media to bring build public pressure, etc., etc. Chinese system doesn't work like that. They feel like, okay, they already addressed the problem, they can move on. They don't need
They
to
can move on.
create a big ruckus.
Fair
Yeah,
enough. I
so
accept that.
I don't know. Like again, I can neither confirm or deny that this happened. Because
Fair enough. Fair enough.
yeah.
The relationship with Israel is always an interesting thing to me, just because it has geopolitical implications. And like, for example, if you're talking to like John Hammer, and he's mentioning Putin's relationship with Netanyahu, and how it's a weird mix considering where the United States and Russia are effectively at, with this kind of proxy as a component of it. Like, meaning they have a relationship despite the fact that the United States and Russia are basically at war. And with China, it's kind of a similar thing. They have a relationship with Israel despite the fact that Israel is a stalking horse for the United States. Like, relationships with Israel are very interesting. That's all. How they operate,
Well,
considering all
Jamar
of these countries.
Thomas, you want to keep your friends close and your enemies closer. You kind of
True.
always want to keep a tap,
True.
right? You want to keep the communication channel open so you can monitor the situation. Yeah,
True. I'm not mocking it. I'm just saying it's interesting.
yeah.
Because again, the United States and China are in this kind of economic war. It hasn't necessarily changed. The U.S.
Hmm.
still does things in order to antagonize China, even if it hasn't necessarily kinetic or if it's not necessarily hot.
Sure.
Um, and all of them know that Israel's the stalking horse. So no, I'm not mocking it. Yeah, you're right. You have to keep your enemies close, and you have to keep communication channels open. Totally accept it.
Yeah.
Totally accept it.
Yeah.
What's the next thing for China on the agenda in regards to any kind of world event or any kind of thing that China is supposed to be engaged in coming up soon?
Well, I mean, what China is doing right now, Jamar, is China is trying to manage the decline of the United States. A lot of people like impatient with China, like, well, China is so powerful now. Why don't they just confront United States? Why don't they just stare down United States, challenge United States? No, China is like China understand U.S. is going down this downward spiral. They're trying to manage the decline so it's not like the sudden collapse, which is bad for everybody around.
Right.
And so they don't try to blow things up. They're not trying to actively sabotage United States because U.S. does a great job by itself. They
Yeah,
just
we
trying to
don't need China for
contain.
that. We don't need China.
They just try to contain the fallout, right? Try to
Yeah,
contain, make sure an implosion of the U.S. empire does not bring down the world with it. That's what China is trying to do. Whether that succeed or not, that's a different question. But that's what China is trying to do on the world stage.
yeah. I don't, and we ended on this, but I look. I hear those people. Those are the same people who said the same thing about Russia. And I keep saying it is by the grace of Vladimir Putin that we are breathing air. And you can make an argument for the same thing for Xi Jinping. It is their patience that has allowed us to get through this without there being a third world war, at least up to this point. So, no,
Right.
agreed. Carl, you have my
What
thanks.
China?
You have a good night. No. Please finish
Okay.
your statement.
That's right. What I was trying to say, what China is trying to do is they're now trying to build alternative to the unipolar moment that was dominated by United States. This is why they're engaging with the global South country on multiple spectrums, and they're now emphasizing international law. In contrast to the so-called rule-based international order, because nobody knows what those rules are, and China is trying to be the adult in the room here. Right? I mean that it's very, and also it's very easy to do when you to play your foil is the Donald Trump on the other side, and so now China, from China's perspective, everything is fine. Everything
Yeah,
is fine. We just need to make sure United States does not drag the world down with it. That's it.
which is very possible. But from your mouth to God's ears. Carl, thank you for this. You be safe, okay?
Sure. Thank you.